You know, you had to come. You couldn't. You got to think. We took the bus. You know, I was like the last stop to maybe one more stop. When we used to be at Cedar Riverside, like they drop y'all off and then they drop us off at River Bluff, and that's like the last stop. I don't even know if there was another stop. There might be one more stop over Southeast going over the 10th Avenue Bridge past Hardee's. But that's out the district. I couldn't, if somebody challenged me to a fade or somebody smacked me on the back of the head or knocked my cap off or took my snacks, that's going back to school. We didn't have a system where we could just talk shit on the phone and hide somewhere. Yeah, nigga, meet me outside. F the ops. Blah, 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 blah. We couldn't do that, bro. You start talking shit to somebody, man, and you don't stand up for yourself, you gonna get clowned. You've seen it. You know how we grew up, bro. We gonna
different era now.
It's a different era.
This time is different.
It's different. So, like you had to be who you are. And so when you think about the music, these dudes had to travel from place to place, go to the radio stations, kiss the babies. You couldn't be no lame ass nigga. And if you was a lame, you had to have some real ones with you. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't do that. Master P, man, brought Snoop over, got him a house, said, man, you supposed to have cars and homes. What's going on over here at Death Row? That's why Snoop gives so much respect to Master P. My whole point is Sean wasn't doing that. Sean's looking at Master P. I remember he had quoted, he said, hey, man, you got that paper. They never really wanted to give Master P the credit he deserved because he's from the South. But Master P had that Clive Davis paper, bro. He had that white man paper. He really, really had it. He had that 70% and owning the Masters. That was unheard of. He had what I call a Michael Jackson deal. Only people like Michael Jackson had a deal like that. They had to give it to him. They had to. They had no choice. And I think that's another reason why they got rid of Mike. Man, you own half of Sony. You own the Beatles. Do you know what that did to white people? This is a nigger that owns the Beatles.
African Americans built this nation.
This is a Negro that owns the Beatles publishing, bro. Do you know what does that to the race soldier psyche? Who the hell does this Negro think he is? Well, we can't have that. So, but my whole point is people like Mark Curry, he's saying that he did him dirty. It looks like in 2014 he opened a juice bar in Miami, and then he took a job in the solar power industry. Solar power is powerful. You know what I'm saying? Now, I remember there was a thing going on with solar power. I think it was Akon had went over to China and got a whole bunch of solar panels for the dirt. He just, he got on his Frank Lucas shit and went over there. And a lot of us was rocking with Akon. Then he started talking real slick. Yeah, you black Americans need to forget about slavery. Y'all don't need no reparations. We were like, oh, wait a minute, nigga. Hold on. We've been riding with you from the jump. Where did this come from? Did you feel like this the whole way, nigga? Wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? So, and he started talking about we ain't get, but my whole point is, bro, like, Sean had the opportunity, much like Big Eugene. Sean had the opportunity, man, where, he didn't have to play it like how he played it. Now, yeah, I get it. They signed a contract, but, like, in order for the Locks and all them to get they publishing and stuff, man, they had to fight for it. They had to threaten the nigga, then they had to hire a forensic auditor and all kind of stuff. Like, it wasn't like you just gave it up willy-nilly. You know what I'm saying? So, eventually, he did give it up. Because he had to, and that's probably why the Locks was kind of like, okay, yeah, he gave it to us, whatever. But somebody had to go in there, man, and look at that. And that's a shame. You ain't supposed to do your people like that. When white folks do that to us, we always say, hey, man, they getting over. But we don't expect that. And I get business is business. I get that, bro. But, he's in this situation because For one, he's a simp. He was simping. You ain't never supposed to do this. And then on top of that, man, you know, I just think he should have got with the grassroots a little earlier. You know, because you could right your wrongs, man. You could right your wrongs with this. Like, you got folks, and see, if he gets convicted, this is gonna kind of be like hearsay. I have not seen any damn evidence outside of the emails. I thought the due process was supposed to be made. Okay, the burden of proof is on the prosecutor. You need to show us within a shadow of a doubt. You don't just say, well, okay, yeah, I see you got your ass whooped, but there's no police report of getting the ass whooped. And then somebody else, you know, Cassie's getting this 30 million or more. There's no police reports saying this ass whooping that you took. So I think after he beat her like that and it was on camera, maybe she was kind of like, okay, this nigga gonna keep whooping my ass. Well, that's domestic abuse, and that wasn't reported. But now, if we're gonna say it's trafficking, who did you sell her to? What the prosecution and what the government's trying to do is they're trying to lean it into, well, yeah, you had the power to force her, which he probably did. Well, I'm not stupid. Hey, this is the Bagland Podcast, man. You know, we're not dumb. We know he has the power to do everything she said. We know that. It's easy. But this is a RICO, and y'all are implying the Mann Act. So we can't have you implying the Mann Act, which is a white supremacist law based solely for blacks. Specifically, engineered and architected specifically only for blacks. Jack Johnson. We can't let you engineer the Mann Act, but then we see that you saying that you got violated, and then you turn around and you sleep with the nigga again and tell your boyfriend, and he's punching the walls. Why didn't he punch P. Diddy? Why? Tell me, Solomon, why didn't he get punched P. Diddy?
He didn't punch the wall because he punched the wall because his bitch fucked somebody else.
Right, but why didn't he punch P. Diddy? He was in the courtroom. I seen the pictures. I seen before he got in the courtroom, he had his little shades on and stuff. He's looking all, you know.
He should have punched the girl.
Yeah, why didn't he punch her?
Because he's a simp. I told you she keeps simps. She's not that dumb.
Why didn't she punch?
She keeps simps.
You know?
He's a simp. Wait a minute. My girl just fucked somebody else. She's been lying to me. Fuck. Let me punch the wall. When white boys punch walls, I used to work with a white boy that I used to be a PCA, and he used to just punch the wall all the time. What's wrong with this white boy? They want to punch a motherfucker, but they ain't got the balls to do it. So they're punching the wall. He wanted to hit her. He wanted to hit Diddy. He wanted to hit everybody black.
But he didn't do it.
But he couldn't. He knows I can't snap on her because A, she's about to get a settlement and I might get some of it. And B, she's fucking fine as hell and I'm sprung off her. So shit, I better just punch the wall.
I heard something,
That's
and I don't know if it's true, but I at this point, even if they say it's true, I still find it hard to believe. I'm hearing reports that she named her child after Diddy. Is that true?
I don't know. If it is, I'd be bringing that up if I was a defense. If she's gone, though. She's done now, but
yeah,
I would have brought that up. Is the kid named Sean?
I don't. Let me see here. I think I heard something from. I think I heard something from Willie D talking about it. I just want to be sure, because if that's the case, man, dude, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. We'll look back at that in a minute, but let's go into now. You asked me, well, DP, was Kid Cudi a factor? I'm like, yeah, this nigga sold 5 million records on his first debut. You know, Man on the Moon, the end of the day. And it sold
5 million records.
Yeah, and he sold 4 million records. Like, that's some rock star shit. See, when we say rock star, now let's get some context, y'all. Most of the time when black folks use the term rock star, we really didn't understand, because I didn't. A lot of us didn't understand when we used to hear rock stars. We used to be, oh, that's some white boy music. Little did we effing know, black people created rock. Chuck Berry, Sister Rosetta Thorpe, Little Richard. Those were the architects of rock and roll. Clear fact. Those were the matter of fact. Let me play this audio, just so I get some facts in there. It's undisputed. It's undisputed. Hold on. Here we go. Check this out.
And the best new artist is
fair use.
me. I have never received nothing. You all never gave me no Grammy. And I've been singing for years. I am the architect of rock and roll. They never gave me nothing.
You heard what he said?
Years. I have never received nothing. You all never gave me no Grammy. And I've been singing for years. I am the architect of rock and roll. They never gave me nothing.
He said, y'all ain't ever gave me nothing. And he was like saying it as a joke for the Grammys, Little Richard. He wasn't joking. Even in the comments, I'm looking at the comments, and I didn't even know that much of quote unquote rock and roll as how I was thinking. I'm putting context to my listeners so y'all understand what I'm saying. He had the Beatles as his supporting act. That was his idol. Or not his idol, but the Beatles were his idol. You see what I'm saying? And Jimi Hendrix in his band. He was the architect of rock and roll. And Sister Rosetta Thorpe and Chuck Berry. Those were the architects. Those three people, and it might have been some people culminated around, but they were the architect. They didn't call it rock and roll back in the day. They called it nigger music, race music, to be politically correct around that time. The term rock and roll was the white version, you know, to basically, because at one point they called it race music. They didn't want black music like that on the radio. They said, what is this Jungle Bunny nigger African cannibal music? What is this crap? Don't play that. They tried to ban it. You see what I'm saying? And then, and that's why I tell black folks, man, y'all got to go see Sinners, because you got to really understand where Delta blues came from. Rhythm and blues is blues based. Rock and roll is blues based. Rock and roll is the blues, basically. The jazz, blues. It's the blues. And it's black American music. It was created by black folk. You know what I'm saying? In the Delta. So now they say that jazz, and even that word's questioned, it's the blues. But jazz, quote unquote, so-called jazz, was made in New Orleans. So now Little Richard was basically saying, I'm the architect of this shit. Y'all ain't never gave me nothing, and they didn't. You know what I'm saying? So once they found white artists, they sat around like Elvis. They watched black folks in churches and juke joints and all this kind of stuff, and they probably said, okay, I'm gonna take these moves, I'm gonna take these dances as they usually do, and I'm gonna make something. I'm basically gonna take their stuff, play a little guitar. I'm influenced. They might have been digging it, and then they like, okay, well, this is a white boy, much like Eminem. Let's put him on the forefront because he'll sell. He's white. He could play good enough. He been listening to the nigga music. He could play good enough. You see what I'm saying? So back to that term, rock and roll. We used to call people like, man, Kid Cudi a rock star. That nigga doing 4 million, 5 million, 20 million. So we'd equate rock and roll with white boys because those were the biggest people selling the Metallica and all them. They selling all these records, but they didn't create shit. They didn't create rock and roll, but those are the people that get all the credit. They usually give them the credit as if they created it, and they talk as if they did. Not necessarily the artist itself, but I'm saying white media. The white media and white folks will regard them higher than Chuck Berry, higher than Little Richard, higher than Rosetta. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to play her stuff too. So now let's get back to his sales. You're a salesman. Kid Cudi went 5.5 million, bro, in the U.S. His debut album, which was his best selling, did 4 million in the U.S. alone. Then he did The Man on the Moon Part 2. That went platinum. And then he did something called Indicud. That went gold. So he sold about 27.5 million units in the US. And then he had a breakout song called Day and Night, and that went diamond. So that's why niggas be like, man, that nigga a rock star. He ain't selling no regular rap nigga shit. He's selling rock star music, bro. So when she said, well, Sean went crazy, that's why. you dealing with a bona fide nigga. You ain't dealing with no little local joker. We ain't talking about no disrespect to Mobb Deep. They pioneers. But you know, they ain't doing like no 20, 30 million or whatever. They doing real rugged rap. And Kid Cudi is nowhere. I'm not even gonna put them in the same sentence of Mobb Deep when it comes to, you know, what they brought to the table. But what I'm saying is, bro, you ain't dealing with no local joker. You dealing with somebody that moves major shit. So, yeah, Sean Simpson went to the highest degree. So, you know, hopefully that answers your question. Like with DP, was this dude small? Who was it? Man, that nigga sold records. Good music. And what? And I told you before, you still there?
Yeah.
Good music. Yeah. Kanye, what he did was different than Rockefeller. Remember, Rockefeller Records didn't want him to rap. When Dame Dash and Jay and all them be in the studio and that nigga be trying to rap, like, man, who's this Chicago nigga trying to rap? Get it, man, make some beats. We don't want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's how they was treating him at Rockefeller. You know, because they're like, okay, your beats is on point. Your beats is incredible. You see what I'm saying? But you rapping, they didn't really take Kanye serious. And to be honest, Kanye was probably a better rapper than a lot of them dudes on the rock. I mean, you know, arguably, can he get with Siegel? But he does a different kind of music than Siegel. Siegel does street shit. But what I'm saying is like, you know, I mean, Kanye, he's from Chicago, so he's around street niggas all day too. But what I'm saying is like, it's just a different kind of music. So can I compare Siegel and Kanye? Well, it's just different. It's a different kind of music. Siegel wouldn't be able to do the music that Kanye does lyrically. He's not going to rap about whatever Kanye's rapping about. Siegel ain't going to rap about that. Siegel going to rap about beating your ass and shooting you and selling crack and surviving prison and shit like that. You know, like Siegel's going to come from, Beanie Siegel's coming from the survival aspect. Siegel's coming from Beanie Siegel's coming from the aspect of doing time in a maximum security cell, and then you just got a call talking about you just lost your mama. You see what I'm saying? He's coming from that aspect. Kanye's coming from a little different. So I wouldn't compare them and say, well, oh, is Siegel a better lyricist than Kanye? Is he rawer? Yeah, he's raw. You're not gonna catch Siegel, pulling the stunts that Kanye's doing now, saying all this crazy stuff. Siegel ain't gonna, he don't come from that cloth. It's just a little different. But now, if that's why I say when you look at Memphis Bleak, when you look at rock, when you look at sales, you're a sales dude, you're a businessman, so I'm gonna speak to you about sales. When we talk about sales, good music got to rock, bro. Kanye alone done sold 25 million. Big Sean sold 50 million. I didn't know Big Sean was that big. Big Sean was huge, bro. He sold 50 million. Now Pusha T, they didn't really mention him because he's not gonna sell like them. He's like coming from the Beanie Siegel era. This nigga talking about wrapping up bricks of cocaine and selling it. That's his life. You know what I'm saying? He's not talking about, so that's gonna get a certain demographic. Pusha T and the Clipse, they coming from the dope boy. Before, even before like T.I. and Gucci Man and Jeezy was in, they was T.I. and Gucci Man before them. Remember when they came out with Pharrell? They talked about cocaine. They were like Rakim and Nas with cocaine. So they were like lyricists strictly talking about the game, strictly talking about being you know what I'm saying, some dope selling niggas. That's all they talked about. But they talked about it in a way that struck you. The metaphors when they said keys open doors. Do you know how hard of a lyric that is when you really think about it? Now, the average person kind of be like, well, what does that mean? Keys open doors. Now, it's keys open doors. They do open doors. If you got a key, it's going to open the door. But metaphorically, he's saying, yeah, these bricks going to open some doors. It's going to get these hoes. It's going to get these Rolls Royces. It's going to get, you know what I'm saying? If you a dope boy, you understand. Like, keys open doors. When you listen to that song about keys, I want to play that for y'all. I might get a copyright strike, but I want y'all to I want y'all to hear how cold their lyrics were. So he's not gonna sell records like Big Sean. But let me play this for a little bit. Hopefully I don't get a strike or whatever the case may be. But fair use, YouTube, fair use.
Keys open doors.
And here's the thing with Pharrell. Pharrell went darker with this second album. Then the first album they had that grinding. Then they made the second album, but they were on a different label. I think they were at Jive Turkey Records at that one point. Jive didn't really know what to do with them. What's Jive gonna do with the clips? They're used to dealing with Britney Spears and shit like that and R. Kelly. They don't really know what to do with rappers. Every rapper that went over to Jive couldn't make it. They have no idea what to do with what they call urban music. They don't know what to do with urban music, bro. They don't know what to do with no rap niggas. They didn't know what to do with these dudes. You see what I'm saying? So it didn't get promoted like it should have. But this song, this album, and this song was one of my favorites. Keys Open Doors, Hell Hath No Fury. It took forever for it to come out because they kept dealing with label problems.
Keys open doors. Keys open doors. Keys open doors. Yeah. Make your skin crawl, press one button, let the wind fall. Who gon' stop us? Fuck the coppers, the mind of a kilo shopper. Seeing my life through the windshields of choppers. I ain't spent one rap dollar in 3 years, holla.
Now you heard what he said. He said, I ain't spent one rap dollar in 3 years, holla. So if you're a listener, you kind of thinking, this nigga ain't getting no royalty check. So what has he been doing in order to feed himself? You know what I'm saying? This is real like mafioso dope boy rap. Like it's a little different than like the Jeezys and the T.I.s and stuff. It's in the same realm, but it's highly intricate. You got to kind of pick up some of the words that they say because there's certain things that they say. It's not just flat out, oh yeah, I sold a brick of dope. That's not how they talk. They say things in code. So you could tell they spent a lot of time putting it together.
Money's the least, drag the bitch by a dog collar. Now hoe follow.
Like you heard what he said. He said money's the least, drag the bitch by the dog collar. Now hoe follow. You see what I'm saying? Like he's really saying some shit on here.
This is my ghetto story, like Sham Ice P is the Don Dada. Open the Frigidaire, 25 to life in here.
He said open the Frigidaire, it's 25 to life in there. Now, you still there?
Yeah.
When he said that made my skin crawl. Or not my skin crawl, that made my hair stand up when I first heard that song. When I first heard that lyric. Because I remember myself being in a room. This was around the time I was younger. And I was trying to get on my feet. But I remember being in a room where a dude opens up a fridge. And it's 25 to life in there. I remember that. I remember being in a room where an old school dude opened up his fridge in front of me. And when he said it's 25 to life, it probably wasn't 25 to life in that fridge. It might have been 5 to 10. You know what I'm saying? It might have been. But basically, he's opening up this fridge and shit's frozen in there. And he's like, DP, what you want? I'm putting you on. How much you want? So I knew what he was talking about. So as a lyricist, it's just, you know, if you're just a hip hop lyric, you know, a person that's in the lyrics, you kind of like, okay, that was a dope lyric. But when he said that that made my hairs turn up on the back of my neck, because I remember actually being in a room where somebody opened up the fridge and he's saying it's 25 to life, but I'm looking like that's 5 to 10. If I get caught with what's in this fridge, it's 5 to 10. You see what I'm saying? So that shit kind of resonated. I said, man, that shit's crazy.
Much white you might think your holy Christ is near. Throw on your Louis V, millionaires to kill the glare. Ice trays nada, all you see is pigeons paired. The realest shit.
He said ice trays is nada, all you see is pigeons paired. So he's speaking again to the game. He's not saying dope, but he's a pigeon. Okay, that's a brick. You see what I'm saying? So Clipse, they can say Jeezy, T.I., Gucci, the trap, 2 Chainz, whoever they want to say that did this kind of music. Now, you would have to go back and go further, because I'm a historian with this, bro. You know, Chef Raekwon and Ghostface. They did that, what they call so-called mafioso rap. Some of it was like fictional and stuff, but you know, these dudes was from the block. So they talking about pitching and hustling. And they might have threw a little cut on it, you know what I'm saying? But they're talking like kingpins almost like them. But the words that they're using in the lyrics are they're not your normal little trap song that you heard now. Remember, this was 2003 when this came out. So you still had dudes that was really putting a heavy emphasis on lyrics. It wasn't people mumbling. Like, you listen to this, bro. They're not mumbling. Nobody's mumbling.
Not Pac inspired, it's crack pot inspired.
He said this is not Pac inspired, it's crackpot inspired. You see what I'm saying? Like, they going off.
I ever wrote, not Pac inspired, it's crack pot inspired. My real niggas quote, bitch never cook my coke. Why? Never trust a hoe with your child.
Did you hear that? Now Diddy should have listened to this. He says, bitch never cook my coke. Why? Never trust a whore with your child. They getting deep. Sean probably wanted to be a pimp. Couldn't do it. He watched his mama. They said his mama might have been a pimp. But man, you got to listen to the pimps, man. You got to be around the pimps. He should have been listening to Sweet Jones and 8 Ball and MJG, and you know what I'm saying? He should have been up there with Pimp and Ken. He should have, you know, what did Snoop Dogg do? Remember when Snoop had that little phase with the pimp and stuff? Who did he get with? He got with Pimp and Ken. You remember when 50 Cent did that one song?
Yo, this is Don Juan.
Don Juan, he got with some real bona fide pimps. Some niggas that used to do that stuff. You know, what's that one song? P.I.M.P. A B can't get $1 out of me. What did 50 do? He got Snoop in the video. He probably consulted with Don Juan. Hey man, I want a video that, you know what I'm saying? Now, remember, that was a thing back then where, you know, that was cool. Even the women liked it. Like, you know, that was a thing. But then they came with human trafficking. Folks ain't really talking about pimps no more. The only people get away with talking about pimping on the record is Glorilla. Glorilla the P from Memphis. Big pimping down there in Memphis. That's a known thing. Glorilla. Glorilla
really pimping anymore.
Yeah, it ain't pimping, you know what I'm saying? But like, you used to, when you hear the word pimp, it's kind of like the word when we used to hear back in the day where they say hustle. Oh, a hustle. There must be doing something illegal. Side hustle. Then after a couple years, you seeing all these commercials with like Uber, and you know, you see white people talking about, oh, get a side hustle, and they were heavily promoting that. When we were doing it, when black folks are the kings and the pharaohs of side hustles. We've been doing that for hundreds of years. You know, you have a side hustle. That was looked on as a dirty word. I remember when a side hustle, when you be like, yeah, I got a side hustle. Oh, you must be doing something wrong. And you look up, and then now they doing it. It's the same thing with when he said the architect of rock and roll is Elvis. It's Elvis once again. Oh, 94 crime bill. Okay, now we got a cannabis building. So you got white boys out here selling weed, and you got black folks that's still doing life with no parole under the 94 crime bill. You know, so, you know, like, back to the Grammy family, bro. I took a little excerpt out of Pusha T and stuff, but you heard that. Pusha and Malice, they got that work. Very few people could come to them. That's why Drake really didn't he didn't really come back at Pusha too hard. He had a lot of trouble because he's like, man, I probably grew up listening to them dudes. But Pusha really was just kind of showing his coon card, like, dude, you used to do blackface. Don't try to diss me, nigga. I'm a real foundational black American. You a corny ass Canada nigga that did blackface. Don't try to don't come at me. Cause I'm gonna show you what you really is. He didn't really have a lot of room to deal with Pusha. He wasn't gonna be able to go against Pusha. Drake's a great songwriter if he wrote his songs, but you ain't gonna go against Pusha. You ain't gonna go against an actual battle rapper, a nigga that probably actually sat down and cooked crack. And you get some nigga that with a white mom that was always privileged. You're not really gonna be able to, you're not gonna. It's almost like some kid from Calabasas and he goes over to Cedar Riverside in the early '90s talking about, well, yeah, I run this. You gonna look at him and be like, man, what? Who the hell are you? Go back with your rich billionaire mom. Don't come over here to the sandbox. Like, you know what I'm saying? You ain't really gonna be able to. He's not even gonna have the same experience. He ain't really gonna know. But anyway, good music, man. Big Sean, Pusha T, John Legend, Common. Common was on Kanye's. So you got to think. Sean felt a certain way with Kid Cudi. They saying that he did something. They say he might have got somebody to blow up the car and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's that shows the prosecution, or that shows the defense to say, well, this was domestic abuse at best. This was a great American love story. Drugs, lust, freak offs. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is domestic abuse at worst. But they're framing it into a RICO, and it shouldn't have been a RICO unless you could show. But see, what they're saying is, bro, you had the power to force her to do it. Because see, here's the thing, bro. Once they establish that he forced her, like you said earlier, everything else crumbles. Everything else crumbles. But
everything. It doesn't even have to be Cassie. It could be the next. They got another victim.
It don't matter. Yeah, it don't matter. All you need is that one count, and that count's gonna open up everything. Yeah, the count of force, because they're trying to pin him on trafficking, but he had her pay for everything.
He was smart in that regard.
So she hired the people, but
I don't even know if he was being smart. I think that she legitimately was just as into it as he was.
She was into it. But see, that's one of the things that I said, okay, I tried to show a little sympathy from out the jump, but then I said, wait a minute, man. Some of this stuff can sound like cap. Now, once he got sloppy with the videos, whatever he did, he was sloppy. And simps typically do be sloppy. We know that. That's just the nature of a simp. They're sloppy. They don't think about what they do. Like I told you earlier today, I said, man, ain't no way. And me and you, I'm not trying to pocket watch, but me and you, we probably never touched $15 million. But what I'm saying is, bro, is if I touch even 700,000, I would never really think about, like, okay, I'm gonna let you explain it to our listeners on what the median income for a black kid in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood. We ain't even gonna mess with Seward, because Seward at one point was considered middle class, middle upper class in the 90s or whatever. Now it's just, you still got some of those people there, but give my listeners a glimpse of what you think the annual income, median for a black family in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood in the 90s. Or the 2000s. The 90s or the 2000s. Shit. In Cedar Riverside.
Probably under 20, probably even under 15 grand.
15. All right. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was coming up, I used to bring food stamps on Cedar and Washington to go to the store. So I I didn't know how poor I was because we had something to eat. So to us, we weren't poor. Now, when I used to go to school, I remember in Seward School, I'll never forget this. I went to the line, and there was a little that little green piece of paper that you showed the lunch lady. And because I forgot what they call it, but basically, if you don't make a certain amount of money, you get free food, free school lunch. And I brought the school lunch to the lady, old white lady. She must have been 60, 70. I can't remember her name, but she always was real fond of me. And I showed her the slip. I had to turn in the slip. Now this was in Seward neighborhood, bro. This was Seward School. This is before we went to Ann Sullivan. So this had to been like first or second grade. It probably was second grade. I don't think it was kindergarten. But I brought her the slip. And matter of fact, it might have been Ann Sullivan. It might have been, maybe. Matter of fact, I think it might have been Ann Sullivan. But I brought her the slip, and I said, here's the slip that my mom signed. And she looked at that slip on how much we were. I didn't understand it completely. Now I do. But I never forget it. She looked at the slip and says, "How are you guys surviving?"
African Americans built this nation.
She said, "How are you guys surviving?" And I'm like, yeah, I ain't think too much of it. I just said, well, we eat. But what she was really saying, bro, is y'all are barely making it. So it had to been, like you said, 15, maybe not even 15 grand. The poverty level or whatever it was. I don't even think it was 15. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I don't even think it was 15,000 a year. Because my mom wasn't working. My dad was kind of working odd jobs and stuff. The townhomes, the River Bluff townhomes was in my dad's name, bro. So I don't even think it was 15,000 a year. And I remember a time when I don't know what grade it was, but I told the lady that I didn't want to go to college. Oh, she almost had a heart attack. Oh my gosh, Mr. Derek, you're not going to college. I'll be so disappointed that you don't go to college. And I really couldn't articulate it, just like I told you when I was in high school, when I used to always be talking about 40 acres and a mule. I knew that it was old. I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know enough of the history behind it. But I knew that it was something that was supposed to happen, and it didn't, because somebody didn't honor their bargain. And when I told her I didn't want to go to college, I couldn't really articulate. I was a kid, so I really couldn't articulate why. But as I got older and I look back now about college and how we seeing now, man, they hiring for a lot of IT jobs where they say they don't even want no college degrees. And the Obama administration and Michelle, old Grinch face ass, she was pushing that, and it really hit hard with a lot of black women to get these bullshit liberal arts degrees. And you got all these black folks in debt. You got folks that's owing 50 to 70K. You know what I'm saying? And now you're in the circumference of bad economics. A carton of eggs was almost $10 at one point in time. Rent and mortgage is going up, but they're not paying as much. And even if they are paying more, everything keeps going up. So they set us up for failure, and they did that on purpose. They set us up for failure because they didn't say, hey, go learn a trade or get into IT tech or maybe healthcare, something that you're going to be able to pay this shit back. They start hitting them with this, just go to college and get these liberal arts degrees and stuff that just don't mean anything at all. So when I told her I don't have a plan on going to college, I admit that. I just didn't know what I was saying at that time. But now that I know, when I got older, I said, okay, I could get in without college. And I did. You see what I'm saying? But in her mind, she's like, okay, she's looking at it from the white liberal perspective. Oh, you lowly, poor ghetto Negro. Oh, how are you making it? You got to go to college. You're not going to make it without college. You see what I'm saying? So she was trying to cast doubt in my mind. And it kind of reminded me of when that movie in Malcolm X. Oh, Malcolm, you don't need to be a lawyer. You need to be a carpenter. You see what I'm saying? It was kind of like that same kind of thing. And when I watched the movie, I never forgot that contrast. I said, man, that's deep. But anyway, so let's go into the benefits. What did the defense say? The defense said that you benefited. You got to meet Nicki Minaj, Kid Cudi. You got to meet Rick Ross. You got studio time. Before you met me, what were you doing? Now, do you think that was a good question for the defense?
Yeah. They're trying to paint the scenario that bitch, you wasn't on shit.
Yeah, because you
not only that, you got a lot of connections. It's not like she was just some damsel in distress, and she benefited a lot from dating a billionaire.
Yeah. And
he did the R. Kelly. He did the R. Kelly too, dangling careers in front of her.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, he's beating her up. He done stomped her out, beat her up. She wants to leave him, and then wait a minute, he's talking about producing my next album. I can't do that. He got all the drugs. How am I gonna get drugs like this whenever I want? Damn, fuck. Man, let me just stay with him. See, the courts, they don't look at shit like that. She was being abused, but she was taking it for her own benefit.
What do you think about this Danity Kane girl, man? What do you think she's really gonna be able to say?
Well, she already said that she seen Diddy stomp her out one day.
Now, is that extra, or is that just basically saying, oh, more force and coercion?
Well, it's the Fed are trying to paint the scenario that there was fear involved. He beat the shit out of her, and that's what scared her into doing the freak off.
Now, Cassie said later, she told the jury that Combs would become violent if she attempted to leave a freak off without permission. And that piggybacks on what you were saying.
That's the smoking gun that the feds want. That's it. All that other shit, text messages, fighting, this and that, is cool. That doesn't mean shit. That's what the golden nugget is. But here's the thing: is there ever been a scenario where she tried to leave a freak off and he brought her ass back?
Well, the hotel said that.
So far, no. Well, the hotel, the security, he didn't know anything about no freak offs or anything.
The freak offs, they didn't have a freak off at that hotel?
Yeah, they did, but he didn't know. The security never went in the room.
Okay, so
the vase was broken in the hallway.
So what would it take? What do they need to just shut him down where they're like, okay, what proof do they need? Because they're getting testimony, but what proof do they need as a shadow of doubt to show that, yeah, you trafficked her, you forced her? What do they need? They need
either a text message, an email, a voice message of him saying in so many terms, if you don't do this, I'm going to release the sex tape, or I'm going to beat your ass, or bitch, you're going to be in trouble. They need that, or they need an escort that was there on the scene to say Cassie was not feeling it, or Cassie wasn't trying to do it, and he beat the fuck out of her, or he slapped her up, and then she did it.
Now,
that's all they need. One time.
Just one
time. She could be a willing participant 99 times. One time.
So what about this audio where she said, if you release this tape, I'm going to unalive you? Ain't that considered to be attempted murder? To him.
She's not saying that to Diddy.
Right, but
she's saying that to a DJ.
But can't the DJ open up attempted murder?
No, you can't attempt to murder unless she grabbed something and attempted to murder him.
Right, but that's
she didn't attempt to murder him. She said verbally. That's called that could be under terroristic threat.
Conspiracy to murder.
Yeah, well, then I'll
have somebody come unalive you.
Is the DJ pressing charges?
I don't think so.
That was years ago too. The DJ was saying, "I got the sex tape for you and Diddy."
How did he get
And
that
she
tape?
was saying, "Play
If
it."
true.
That's true. That's the thing. And that's the her threatening the DJ. All that's true because they had the audio of it.
But why would
She
the
told
DJ,
the
have the
DJ,
tape?
"I want to kill you." Well, that's a whole nother scenario. I mean, you would think he'd have only got. Well, here's the thing: that white dude, Adi, the white guy that shot up the Trump Towers, and then he had said in 2018, he said, "I was a sex worker." He was an escort at one time. He said, "I was a sex worker for Diddy and Cassie." Remember that white dude?
So
Bald-headed white dude. He shot up the Trump Towers in Las Vegas, and he's in jail right now. But in 2018, he was being questioned by the police for that incident. He said, "Yeah, I was getting paid by Diddy to fuck his girl." That dude.
Geez.
That dude recorded one of the freak offs
Oh, okay.
and tried to sell it back to Diddy.
Okay.
And when the negotiations went left, I'm guessing he threw it out there.
So who did he give? Did he
Or
give the tape to
because
somebody?
it wasn't Diddy. It wasn't Diddy because when she says, "I'm going to kill you," she says, "I'm going to kill you, and then Diddy's going to kill you too."
Was that the dude?
She was saying that to the DJ, who was saying at the club, "I got it. I got the tape on me." She was like, "Play it then, motherfucker. Play it."
Now, was she was she around the DJ or was she on the phone with the DJ?
She was at the club.
Oh man. Damn, I wonder who recorded that.
Could have been somebody. It was a scene, so whenever you see a scene go by, somebody gonna whip their phone out.
Yeah, because I didn't hear it.
And she's somewhat of a celebrity. They played it in court. I just read the transcript.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I read it too, and I was wondering. I said, I wonder.
He said, "I'm gonna kill you." He said, "I'm gonna kill you, and then Diddy's gonna come back and kiil you too." So she was on some drunk shit,
Right, it sounded like some drunk shit.
But the thing is that scenario is being painted that and the fans, they want that because they want the jury to think that Diddy did that.
Oh, so
Diddy put it out there.
So the government played that audio. It wasn't the defense.
No, it wasn't the defense. It was it wasn't. No, it was the defense who played. They both. Well, the defense played it, but if you notice something, she never fought it. She never said, "Oh no, it was because of this." She said, "Yeah, it was because of that, all that." All they want, all the defense want is they want the jury to hear there's a tape, there's tapes, and she's worried about tapes. And that's why she's doing it. Because the logical, if you're on the jury, you're thinking, well, looks like she's pretty, I don't see any scenario here so far where she's being forced to do anything. So they want to have it in the background that she did all this, but she's doing it because she's worried about the release of the footage.
So the Danity Kane girl.
That's basically
the Danity Kane
girl.
The
Danity Kane girl just said, "I seen Diddy beat her ass."
Okay, so that's so.
And that plays into the prosecution. He beats the shit out of her. She's scared.
She's forced to do this.
Yeah, she's forced to do it.
So the defense, what are they going to do next?
She was forced to live this lifestyle. She was forced to live this whole lifestyle. Get high. Everything.
What could
all this is because of Diddy.
What could the defense do, man, with this Danity Kane thing now? Because now this is another person saying you forced her, you beat her, you made her scared.
All they can do is ruin. All they can do is just try to hurt her credibility.
Oh, and say that you did this willingly.
No, with the Danity Kane girl, they have to bring up instances in her life where she's shown a lack of credibility. To show the jury, look, this bitch can lie. Look at this. Look what she did here. Look what she did here. Look what she did here.
Oh, okay, I see.
They have to present that she has a vendetta against Diddy, which all the Danity Kane girls do. But pretty much anyone who's ever done, any artist who's ever done business with him is not, on good terms with him,
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
So all those Danity Kane girls, they all don't like him.
Okay, I'm
But
trying
if
to.
you notice something, this is what you really got to look at. This is why whenever I see Gene Deal on YouTube now, I don't even watch him. I don't even click on him anymore. Because if you know something, the feds never called him.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was gonna say that to you earlier. I said, yeah, man, because if
he'd be the number one witness.
Yeah.
If I'm the feds, I'm bringing this motherfucker.
they didn't even want him.
They could see. I mean, because if you really listen to Gene Deal, the one thing he never says is, I don't know. He knows everything. That's just not realistic.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And Diddy's known for chumping people off and shit like that. You know, he's not going to have his bodyguard around, you know, seeing everything. What Gene Deal did is he would hear about scenarios that Diddy was involved in, and then he would just, you know, he did his homework. I'll give Gene Deal that. He did an extensive amount of homework. He said, okay, well, this happened with Diddy. Okay, so how can I be there? All right, I was doing this. This and this happened. Okay, that happened. Okay. He's just putting himself in scenarios. He might have seen a couple things. You know, I'm not saying he ain't seen nothing. But a lot of what he's saying is bullshit. And a lot of it is just his opinion. And he's making it seem like it's a fact.
Now,
Like, he could have seen Usher. The one thing I do believe with him is, I believe he's seen Diddy do some questionable things. I believe that the story about Usher's ass bleeding and them taking him to the hospital, I believe that, because he told Usher's mom, he was like, you mean to tell me your son's ass wasn't bleeding in the hospital? You wasn't in the emergency room? That I can believe. But, like, I don't think he has, and the feds don't either. They don't think he has any direct knowledge of anything.
if Sean loses this, which I think is a possibility, I think he could, because
He's gonna get found guilty of something,
yeah. He's gonna found because
and they're not gonna. He's not walking.
yeah, he's not
But
walking.
here's the one thing, though. The one thing is he was facing life, right?
Right.
The one thing that will make me think the feds might also not be all that confident is when somebody's facing life, you don't plead down to 15 years. You feel what I'm saying? That's not, you know what I mean? You don't plead down. You don't offer somebody 15 if they're facing life.
Yeah, that means that they're shaky.
They went
They're
down.
like,
Yeah, they're also on that same boat. We don't know, because Cassie's testimony at the end of the day was a wash. It was just a push. She didn't really add. All she did is she proved that he beat the fuck out of her, which everybody already knew.
right.
And she proved that they were some drug addicts, even though she makes it seem like he made her a drug addict, which is along the lines of pimping and that kind of stuff. But I would say if the trial ended today, I would say he walks. But I got half a mind to think that I don't think that's the Fed's only bullet is that girl, is Cassie. I don't think so. I think they got to have something else.
What do you think the defense has, man?
The defense it's not about what they have. They have to go by what the prosecution is doing. So it's what they have is it has to go to what they have to counteract what they have. So they
Burden of
got
proof.
Cassie.
Burden of proof.
Yeah, Cassie, they kind of chopped her up. The defense did a good job of proving to the jury that she's a drug addict. They were in a relationship. She loved him. She loved the fuck out of him. So the pimping part, you know what I mean? I think now you got the Dandy Kane girl. Next week they got to chop her up. They get to cross-examine her Monday. I'm sure they got dirt on her. Oh, in 2007, did you get arrested for writing bad checks or she did something? They're going to bring that up to show the jury that this bitch can lie. She's a criminal. And they have to prove that she's got some kind of vendetta against Diddy, which all those Danny Kane girls do. All of them. All the Making the Band people do too. None of them have anything good to say about Diddy. None of them. And they would all testify. But that girl actually witnessed something.
Now check
Which is why they brought her. She said, I seen Diddy beat the fuck out of Cassie and warned her and another member of Danny Kane. He told them, if you guys talk, you're going to get dealt with. Where I'm from, what he tell them? Where I'm from, people that talk disappear.
Now that wasn't a good idea.
That's what she's claiming. So you gotta assume the jury's gonna believe that unless they have any reason to think she's full of shit. So they gotta figure out. They gotta cut her. All right, you said that. That's in the jury's ear. Now we gotta put some other shit in their ear.
I wouldn't be surprised if they brought Mark Curry.
Does Mark Curry have any knowledge of him and Cassie? They don't care about what happened with the trademarks and beating artists. They don't give a shit about that. Did he have any knowledge of Mark Curry? Has he got any knowledge of him beating up Cassie or beating up any other women? If you were to say, yeah, I seen him, they'd bring him because it's showing a pattern.
Yeah, I don't know. He probably wasn't around for that because see, these things start kind of coming around.
He wasn't Diddy's friend. Was he a friend of Diddy's or just a guy? He was signed to Bad Boys as a ghostwriter.
Yeah, he was like the ghostwriter. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably ain't. I mean, was he in Diddy's little circle of people?
He was like the hitman.
Diddy wasn't just popping drugs around anybody.
No, he probably wouldn't have known that. I don't think he would have known that. He was around the time when
was he around? What year?
When G Dep and them, when he was trying to rebuild Bad Boy, not 09, like 06
early
or something.
2000s?
Yeah, kind of around that.
Diddy was still all right back then.
Yeah. So
he was still all right back then.
Yeah, so they won't bring him. They're not gonna bring him.
He didn't go too far until he started getting into drugs. Man.
You know who they gonna bring?
And trust me, I know. How that drug stuff goes, man. When you get in the middle of that, and you in the heart of that addiction, and you living in your addiction like that, man. And there's no logic. And then you slap a couple $1 billion or $1 or $2 billion in somebody's bank account. Shit, it's hard, man.
Rodney.
It's hard, and then you got to take into account. Rodney. He's the one with the lawsuit.
Yeah.
He said Cuba Gooding and them was grabbing on him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all that is coming later. You know what I mean? And what's going to help all that or hurt all that is what happens with this case. If he's found guilty of doing this, it's going to open the floodgates.
I think
and you got to think he's in jail, so you got to think, why does he care if people sue him? Because they're going to sue his estate.
Yeah,
they're not going to sue him. They're going to sue his estate. All that shit, all that publishing, all that. They're going to sue all that. That's a whole nother can of worms. He ain't, Diddy will go broke and get out. He ain't worried about it.
Now, if he beats this, then what's the next steps?
The next step is, I think, the state of New York hitting him with domestic violence charges.
No, it's too late.
Not going to be much.
Too old. You can't.
I think if he gets found not guilty, they're done. It's over.
Okay.
It's over. You'll see him for a while. He's gonna do the getting into God, and I'm gonna do the church thing and da. He's not gonna come right back into the limelight, but he'll be right back. He'll be right back on it, and he'll be answering questions about why they'll be calling him P Diddy and why'd you pee on the girl and what's the deal with this and that, but he's okay with that. He'd rather be out answering questions about that than sitting in prison. So I think that's his next step is if he gets out, chill for a little while, and then probably promote his sons. Promote their music. They do music, right? Or one of them at least does. He'd probably promote that. I'm sure he'd try to get a couple artists.
I want to let you hear something.
But he will 100% will be back in the public eye, just not right away.
I want to hear something. I want you to hear something real quick. And This is something that black folks have been calling out online.
Maryland bill for slavery reparations heads to governor's desk. Maryland lawmakers have passed a bill to study slavery reparations.
Now, the study, we know that's just a carrot. Like, you know, they don't study stuff for illegals. They don't study stuff for folks in, you know. So this just came out. And when I seen this, my spider sense popped up real quick. Maryland Governor Westmore, and I heard about this Negro many years ago. I had some great suspicions when I first heard him talk, but it's been such a while. But he said, Governor Maryland, it's a Democrat now, so I'm noticing the pattern. Maryland Governor Westmore vetoes slavery reparations study. Not even a study. Usually the Democrats put the dangle over the low. Let's just take a look at it. He's saying, I ain't trying to look at a damn thing. He says, I vetoed a study citing need for the work itself. Now, what I want to do is I want you to listen to this and listen to this carefully. And my listeners to listen to this very carefully. Moore, a Democrat. Now listen to these next 3 paragraphs. Is the state's first black governor and the only black governor currently serving, wrote in his veto letter that he applauded the legislators' work on the bill. Quote, but in light of many important studies that have taken place on this issue over nearly 3 decades, now is the time to focus on the work itself, narrowing the racial wealth gap. Now notice he don't mention black. Expanding home ownership, uplisting entrepreneurs of color. I knew that was coming. They don't want to say black. And closing the foundational disparities that lead to inequality from food insecurity to education. We ain't ask about no people of color. We ain't ask about no home ownership. We ain't ask about no damn wealth gap. We asked for financial reparations. Now listen to this. The governor also noted in his veto letter that black politicians have risen to the highest levels of government in the state in recent years. For example, U.S. Senator Angela Also Brooks is the state's first black U.S. senator. That don't mean a damn thing.